Collecting a jar of hearts. You open my eyes. I'm still fighting for peace. Well, I thought it, but I kept it here.
Don't follow my face. She got too close, so far to
Trying hard to control my heart.
oh, the secret voice. Love the thought.
We can find our desires. I get dirty thoughts about you.
Thoughts running through my head. We don't need no thoughts control.
last time I checked, I'm still hot, real hot. Kept it dope without a pill pop. Bill cars, steady climbing to the hilltop. Tip top, did it all off of a TikTok. Yeah, last time I checked, I still that guy that did it on my own. Stay independent. For you to get what I'm getting, it will probably take a village. Just give me a minute, turn a snippet to a hit, and now they all want a percentage, but I'm.
It's a great way to modify your matches for much easier fire starting if you ever get stranded out in the wilderness. This makes them waterproof and burn with a much bigger and longer lasting flame. And I'll show you how I make them. You just want to grab a bundle of Strike Anywhere matches, some jute twine, and I'll heat up some wax using a double boiler. I'm using Gulf wax, but you can also melt candles. So I'll put that in there, and while that melts, I'll wrap my matches with the twine. You just want to form a bite and then wrap it around until you get all the way to the top, then pass your loose end through the loop. Then I'll pull on the opposite end to tighten it up. I'll trim one of the ends off. I made a few more, and now they're ready to dip into the hot wax. Give them a good soak, then shake them off a little to get rid of the excess. Then I'll let them dry and trim off the ends. I just keep these in a plastic bag for extra waterproofing. Then they're ready to keep in your survival pack or your camping pack or whatever pack you want to keep them in for when you need them. They're pretty easy to light and they should burn pretty hot for about 5 or 6 minutes. These will help you out for getting a fire started.
Guys, this is what happens if you do this exercise every single day. Most importantly, you gain a lot of energy from it and you will raise your frequency. You will also improve your posture, and that means your body does not produce that many stress hormones anymore. And if you start doing it in the morning, you will activate your whole system. And now guys, leave me a comment below if you're willing to do it for 3 times for 30 seconds straight every single day.
Into a week in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I say, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on? And I said, what's going on? And I said,
Odaiko. Tam Tam. Whizzing Bows. Electrical doorbells. Pop gun. Fluxatone. Friction drum. Crank drum.
We're bored. We're all bored now. But has it ever occurred to you, Wally, that the process that creates this boredom that we see in the world now may very well be a self-perpetuating, unconscious form of brainwashing created by a world totalitarian government based on money? and that all of this is much more dangerous than one thinks, and it's not just a question of individual survival, Wally, but that somebody who's bored is asleep, and somebody who's asleep will not say no. See, I keep meeting these people. I mean, just a few days ago, I met this man whom I greatly admire. He's a Swedish physicist, Gustav Bjornstrand, and he told me that he no longer watches television, he doesn't read newspapers, and he doesn't read magazines. He's completely cut them out of his life because he really does feel that we're living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare now, and that everything that you hear now contributes to turning you into a robot. And when I was at Findhorn, I met this extraordinary English tree expert who had devoted his life to saving trees. He just got back from Washington, lobbying to save the redwoods. He's 84 years old. He always travels with a backpack because he never knows where he's going to be tomorrow. And when I met him at Findhorn, he said to me, "Where are you from?" And I said, "New York." He said, "New York, yes, that's a very interesting place. Do you know a lot of New Yorkers who keep talking about the fact that they want to leave but never do?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Why do you think they don't leave?" I gave him different banal theories. He said, "Oh, I don't think it's that way at all." He said, "I think that New York is the new model for the new concentration camp, where the camp has been built by the inmates themselves, and the inmates are the guards, and they have this pride in this thing they've built. They've built their own prison, and so they exist in a state of schizophrenia, where they are both guards and prisoners, and as a result, they no longer have, having been lobotomized, the capacity to leave the prison they've made, or to even see it as a prison."
This is the brain scan of a French government worker who went in for left leg numbness and found out that 90% of his head was effectively empty. This is a case that was published in 2007 in The Lancet. The paper explains that as a child, he had something called hydrocephalus. I've made a video about this condition before. It's basically where there is too much fluid being built up inside of the head. He was reportedly treated with something called a ventriculoatrial shunt, and that's where you create a divergent pathway for the fluid to evacuate because your body can't evacuate it itself. Surgeons took a tube and placed it in the fluid-filled sacs called ventricles and drained it into his heart. And he basically lived his entire life completely normally.